Hello and welcome to today's content, which will be focused on Vinera and her EX since it has been released. And I am a little late to the party, but I've been very busy in real life. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. To start off for Vinera, her main job is going to be the Assassin. So for her main job takeaways, she gets Poison Sting, Pillaging Blade, and Heavenly Blade first. As you can see here from the AoE showing out and their ranges, Pillaging Blade is only one tile away, Poison Sting is more of like a straight line in front of her. It is not piercing, she can only select them in that straight line, keep that in mind. And one of the best AoE abilities for her is going to be Heavenly Blade, which as you can see it's around her and it's a very large AoE. Keep in mind however, it's not like she can't really use it if like her teammates are too close by in terms of Heavenly Blade, so she has to kind of like walk around the area, which is not an issue for her because of her mobility, and I'll get to that later. After that, we have Armor Cleaver, her signature move for single target damage for very big damage, because she not only decreases the defense by 30, she also has a very high modifier of 210% instead of only 200. With her EX upgrade, however, she gets a Vampiric Cleaver, so it's upgraded, so she also heals 30% of that damage done. This is pretty nice to have. Lastly, well not lastly, but her last of her base unit abilities is that she's going to get Condemning Blade, where it's also only one tile away sadly. It doesn't do as much damage as Armor Cleaver, however, it's not going to be used as much, but it still has potential where you have a 25% chance to inflict doom for 4 turns, like they have 4 turns before they die for the target. Keep in mind this also means you need Faith because it's a status element. And then her Limit Break, which is going to be Dark Art, Hidden in Haze, where she actually does a little bit more damage than 200% because of just how many hits it does. It does 3 hits and has a high chance of poison. And as you can see from the picture of the range, it's also going to be like a straight line like Poison Sting in a way. Before we go to the next slide, her EX ability she gains is going to be called Blood Pact at the top right, as we can see there. She not only gains 20 AP, 20 AP for herself. Also, using that ability costs 24 TP, so she also gains 12 AP extra. So she gets technically 32 AP from using Blood Pact, technically. From that, she also has she gains single target resistance by 25% for herself for 3 turns, which is pretty nice to have. 25% is a good chunk, and single target is nice to have, especially if she gets focused down instead of getting AoE'd or chip damage. So moving on to her sub jobs and what I would recommend for her sub job. Most of the time, especially on auto, you want to use her dual gunner sub job. The reason why is not going to be for rapid fire or split shot, even though split shot is not bad. You want it mostly for the horizontal shot because of the range on it, like the AoE is huge. And as well as that, you want dual trigger. Dual trigger is one of the highest missile damage abilities that is on single target, and it hits twice, so it's very strong. Outside of that, we have the Thief subjob, which is gonna have Steal Vision, Steal, Shadowcast, Steal Time. Most of these abilities from Thief is gonna be used in live PvP or like class match pretty much. They are very strong and effective, especially there. From there, we're gonna have her Assassin, a subjob where she has Bind, which is not too amazing. She has Marauder's Blade, which is actually not bad. I do believe it's actually bugged right now. I remember seeing a post on it in Reddit, and it actually made, like, I tested it myself that it didn't actually decrease the defense. So it's kind of a useless ability when you have Armor Cleaver. We'll just go with that for now because of how the skill functions. I'm not sure if they fixed it. I might have to test that probably like today after this. Anyways, and she also gets Seize AP, which is also not bad in live PvP, but compared to what you can gain from the Thief subjob, basically Thief subjob is going to be way better than Assassins in my opinion. Outside of that, I do believe Dual Gunner just in general is going to be one of the best because having dark missile attacks is very helpful. But yeah, outside of all her subjobs, I would recommend mostly the Dual Gunner subjob. Here we are for resistances and her passives. So she has 15% to slash, 0% to pierce, -10 to strike, 20 to missile, and -20 to magic. Keep these in mind. We can see obviously from here, magic is definitely a huge weakness for her, and missile is very strong for her in general. Slash is alright at 15%. Outside of this, we know she has 0% AoE resistance and single target resistance. At level 120, fully maxed, she has 0 defense and 0 spirit as her base statuses. For her resistances to statuses, she has 50% to poison, 50% to sleep, which are alright. Mostly sleep is a little bit better depending on the situation. Poison is not used very often. And she's -5 to slow for some reason, which I'm not sure why, but yeah. Obviously, as you can see from here, from the statuses, she does not have resistances to paralyze, disable, stop. Basically the more important ones, but keep in mind she is also an evasion unit, so we'll get to that in a little bit. For her master ability, she has evasion +10 for herself and attack up by 10% for herself. This is very good because it helps her hit a little bit harder and survive a little bit more because of her evasive like potential. Her base movement is 4 move, 2 jump, which is very nice to have. She's a cost 80 unit. For her passives, and what I would highly recommend is that because of her EX ability giving her a little bit more survivability, Shadow Clad is actually going to be pretty good, which is the evasion up upgraded passive, because she also gets 12% more HP. This 12% more HP is gonna, I'll explain in like a few slides over, but it is vital for her to survive against holies, enhanced holy, especially from Yuna, and I'll explain later. Outside of that, another passive that's really good is Thief Lore. You can easily get 5 move, 2 jump, which is very nice to have, and increase her agility even further. This would mostly be used on either large maps or when you want to like kind of trick the enemy AI so it favors you more specifically. Tune-up outside of that would definitely be the default to go to, because not only does she gain defense penetration, she also gets faster as well because of her agility up. For niche and flex, the acquired AP up, I do believe it's a little niche compared to like the other advantages and benefits you can get from the other passives. Missile Master is not too bad because it's 15 missile modifier damage. However, if like she does not have the other passives, like depending on what you're giving up, it gets a little wishy-washy and only pretty niche like in that regard. So that's why those passives are in the niche and flex area. For her reaction abilities, I would highly recommend use Dark Shadow. If she does get hit and she does survive, like maybe like it's possible because of her HP percent passive, it definitely helps her survive a little bit more. If she gets hit and this procs, it definitely helps her get another turn much faster, so she's able to retaliate instead of getting chained. This is very effective. Quick action is kind of the same like Dark Shadow, but it's not as useful just because Dark Shadow directly increases your CT by a certain amount for a turn, which is very nice. Predictive Fire is very nice, mostly I would say in PvE, mostly when you're just trying to get a little bit more DPS just from counters. However, Dark Shadow can also kind of make up for it, but Dark Shadow does eat up a turn. Predictive Fire does not, it's just a reaction ability. Vinera's rating out of 5. So when she's EX and her current release right now, she's definitely a 4 out of 5 unit. She's pretty good on release right now. She's capable of being a very strong slash attacker, mostly because of her passive and her EX bonus like stats. It's definitely very good. She has unfortunately still mediocre HP even with her passive. She has high attack, however, high agility, and she has a base of 0 defense and 0 spirit. As you can see, she's still, even with her evasive capabilities, she's still gonna be a little squishy. And she needs that to kind of survive, like that evasion. She's capable of dealing very good damage from both single target and AoE damage, and her most hard-hitting abilities is going to be on her single target like abilities, like Armor Cleaver or Vampiric Cleaver. It hits very hard, 210%, and it lowers defense by 30. It's very solid. She's able to inflict blind, doom, and defense debuffs all alone on her main job alone. Keep in mind these are all also only single target because she's not able to like AoE like status element, unfortunately. Because she has access to the dual gunner subjob, she has strong dark missile damage. That's very nice to have, especially because if you're locked to only one damage or damage type, it's a little wishy-washy, especially if you hit an enemy that is specifically building against you. Her EX, as I said earlier, grants her more HP, and that ability she gains from it is good because of her single target resistance as a buff. Is very nice to have. It actually does help her survive against enhanced holy, but I'll get into that a little bit more in her future and longevity portion. Due to her EX passive being on evasion, and it locks down one passive because she also gains she gets HP from that as well. She does have a large variety of passives, which is very nice to have, but because it's kind of pushing you towards her evasion / HP percent passive, you kind of have to kind of use it if you want to live like a little bit longer. The other passives do not give you enough of a benefit to like proceed further. Her resistances are weak to strike and magic. Because strike currently does not have 100% hit, she can evade it, so it's not too much of a problem. Magic, however, if she is going against her counters, which are going to be light units such as like Sakura, Yuna, stuff like that for magic and their light units, she she will die. Like 9 out of 10 times in most setups, she will die almost instantly. So it's very hard for her to deal with that. So just keep that in mind. Her slash and missile, however, are very acceptable, and her missile being extremely strong. Even like during like the Fortress Guild War map where a lot of people are using gunners, if you build a very high missile resistance Vinera, she actually survived through triple gunner compositions and took them out in return. It's kind of crazy how good it is. As evasion as a unit, she's actually currently the second best evasion unit, I believe, and she's only currently beaten by 2B by about 40 luck stat, which is actually a good amount, but at least she's still very evaded regardless. She also has access to Shadowcast instead of Illusion, so that is a little bit more of a benefit if she did go to Thief subjob compared to 2B, but it still does not beat 2B's setup. Also, I have to say 2B's... I'll say it, she's kind of a better version of Vinera. I'll explain in the future and longevity portion. Her mobility, however, and her agility allows for insane movement across the maps. As I said earlier, if you use Thief Lore with her, she gains 5 move, 2 jump. She literally can travel like half the map in one turn. It's pretty crazy. Vampiric Cleaver is very good because if she does take chip damage and she does heal up, Vampiric Cleaver, she doesn't heal up, sorry. If she takes chip damage and she uses Vampiric Cleaver because she survived, she'll definitely heal a good chunk of HP. As long as they're not like significantly like super high defense builds or slash resistance, she'll definitely be able to do capable damage and heal up. Because she does have the dual summer job, dual gunner job, not summer, sorry. I keep mixing up my words today, I don't know why. But yeah, she does have the 2 attack types, slash and missiles, and they're all possible for high damage. It's not like a sub job where it does a little bit of damage. She has dual trigger, she has horizontal shot. She definitely can hit very hard with her dual gunner sub job, so it's pretty good. Moving on to the future and longevity, some people might not like this rating, but it's just how I believe it, and especially playing against a lot of units in guild map right now, a lot of people are struggling against Helena specifically, but not dark comps in general. It has to be Helena pretty much, or even Garvel. But yeah, I gave her a 3.5 out of 5. The reason why is that as much as her EX gives her more HP, she still gets a mediocre amount in total. I believe she lands a roughly around 3k HP even with the passive. That is not very high for someone of like DPS in general. Because she doesn't have any other resistances, that's pretty shallow of amount of HP to survive in general, so it's not enough. Her EX also gives her a decent amount of AP generation. I do believe we said earlier it was around 32, which is actually pretty good. It's almost like using Glaciella TMR, and it gives her a single target resistance for 3 turns. However, due to AI, it is a bit counterintuitive, and the reason why I say it's a bit counterintuitive is that because she is going in alone, mostly because of her high mobility of Vinera, and she has or evasion, she is either 1, not going to get focused at all and like it's going to be ignored completely from single target, or she'll get AoE'd, or 2, she runs into an enemy team and they have like a holy user and she's just going to get smited there. She has a higher chance of dying on the average compared to not dying unless you go heavy on the magic resistance. And I mean heavy as in you're sacrificing your like evade like items for more tanky items, for like more spirit or more light resistance. So it's a bit counterintuitive to how she actually plays as a unit, in my opinion. She also doesn't have any barrier breaks, which is pretty significant, and she doesn't have any barriers in return, so she is very vulnerable to what she is as a unit. She's very fragile to that. She has no elemental or slash imperil slash penetration without a setup or a vision card. Maidens of the Rose, as I talked earlier in that damage video I did for slash penetration, it only gives 18% at max. It's not significant enough to make a big difference, but it does help a little bit. But regardless, her as a unit alone does not bring enough to the table without that setup. Also, despite no imperils, she still has access to dark missile damage, and almost no one is really running missile resistance, and if they are, it's very small portion of units that are using it. They are giving up a lot more to just try and counter Vinera's dark missile damage, which she also has access to slash, so she can just switch between the two easily. She has very good firepower, but she also quickly, if she runs into trouble if she is not able to down enemies quickly, especially if the enemy team has a tank. She's not going to be hitting the Yuna, she's not going to be hitting the Sakura, she's not hitting the healer in the backline, she's hitting the tank. So she's going to be in the fray, able to get like chip damage or focused if like the other team doesn't have a tank. So it's like she needs AP, so that using her one ability that gets her across the map as well, and she gains only 32 AP, she will run out of abilities like kind of quickly. So she has to kind of choose, especially on smaller guild maps. She has to choose between Belle's AP generation or her EX ability to survive. So it's going to be kind of situational on how she's going to be used. On bigger maps, the issue is that she does get more buffs out. However, because of how fast she is and how high her mobility is, she's going to be in the middle of all the enemies before her teammates can even help her. So keep that in mind. Her defense penetration, however, and her vampiric / armor cleaver allows to cut through defense builds very, very easily. It does not matter how much defense you build up, she's able to cut down a big portion of it easily. As an evasion unit, as I said earlier, she's only beaten by 2B. However, she is not only a dark unit, which allows for a significant amount of counters and weaknesses, and she's a human, so that means light types in general are very strong against her, or magic. She's like a weaker, fragile version of 2B. 2B is also an android / machine, so she doesn't get like affected by human killer like panels. And 2B also actually has more survivability in general and does not have an innate weakness to light elements specifically. So 2B is literally just a better version of Vinera if you're like trying to use them for evasion in general. Vinera, if the other team does not have a tank, she can easily dispatch the backline. Like, it does not matter if they don't have a good setup to counter Vinera specifically, or they don't have a tank, and like those two reasons. Most compositions will have a tank, but I have seen some that don't. She will take out the weakest unit like very, very easily. So keep that in mind. As much as she might be focusing a tank, if the enemy team does not have a tank, she's very useful there. With her solo build setup, without any other vision card, just with her vision card, Maiden of the Rose, with the evasion setup, with light resistance, with I believe Dancrid's coat, so she can still use her dagger and ribbon with a good evasion setup. She can still die in one single hit from a Yuna that is using Bahamut Esper as well as Bahamut vision card. She can still get one shot by Black Robed Helena. She can still get one shot by Garvel, and she can actually technically die from Mediana with a flare or her Blizzara upgraded EX version. But that's if Mediana hits her. But Yuna, Helena, and Garvel all have 100% hits. They can easily take out Vinera in that regard. And since those units are all super meta right now, especially because of magic just being so strong, Vinera kind of misses her opportunity to be used very, very well in the future in longevity. Right now, she is actually pretty good because you can actually cheese the AI in her like situation. I'll have to explain that later, but yeah, overall I can't give her a bigger number than 3.5 out of 5. And I said earlier, 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 I would say is very good units. I would highly recommend it, but future longevity does not look like it for her in my opinion. For her TMR chase rating, I actually did give her a 3 out of 5 for this. I thought about 4 out of 5, but because the item stats in general are a little bit too low, especially on the HP portion, I couldn't give it a 4 out of 5. I do believe it's still very good, especially because you get 7 defense, 5 agility as an accessory is very nice to have. And also the TMR effect is actually not bad because it gives her light killer if she's trying to kill light units, obviously, and it decreases her chances of being targeted. Keep in mind, if no one else is able to be targeted but only her, even with this active like cast that you do, she will still be targeted because no one else is able to be targeted. So just keep that in mind. So moving on to stuff that can work well with Vinera. First off is going to be Dwayne. Dwayne, within a month, I do believe he should be getting an EX for us. If we're following the Japanese schedule, we should be getting his EX soon. This is going to make him insanely strong. Not only does he get a lot of attack, he gets definitely a bit more bulkier and more tanky. He's a good tank frontline for Vinera specifically, and he gets a Slash Imperil. They're going to be a very good pair together because they can just combo off each other. He also has Dark Imperil, which also helps her in case the enemy stacks up a lot of Dark Resist, which is very easily possible if they are a competitive player. Black Road Helena, same thing as Dwayne. Because she has Dark Imperil on her ability and it's one of her hardest hitting abilities and her LB, it's very, very useful, and it's going to easily set up Vinera to like finish off a unit if they somehow survive because of that Dark Imperil. Specifically here for 2B, these are like the evasive ladies, basically. Their vision cards work very well for each other, they don't overlap, as well as if a third unit uses the Shiva vision card, they basically have like a very super evasion team right here. I don't know if you could get more evasive that and like more evasion than that team setup, as well as still capitalizing on like all the benefits. Lastly, it's going to be Stern, not Rune Stern, because Rune Stern is going to be a long time, or should be a long time until we get his EX, so I didn't put him here for now. Regular Stern has Calamity Hazard, which is not only a super hard-hitting ability, it's also a very fat 38% slash and peril. He could easily set up Vinera to kill someone instantly right after, because of Vampiric Cleaver's defense down. Vice versa, or vice via, she can armor Cleaver slash Vampiric Cleaver someone, and then Stern can finish them off with Calamity Hazard because they just complement each other just way too well on that combo. For equipment, TMR wise, Dankrid's coat is very, very good here if you want a little bit more light resistance and a lot more flat HP. Dankrid's coat gives a good amount of HP, around 500, and it gives 15 light resistance, which is very nice to have. Very, very nice. Bells obviously is very good because not only does it give her a lot of AP generation, she can constantly just put out Vampiric Cleavers, Heavenly Blade, Vampiric Cleavers. She just keeps DPSing. Like it'll help her significantly deal her firepower moves. For her evasive setups, Ribbon is definitely gonna be one of the best items for her because it doesn't prevent her from being stopped, but it stops very weak or low base chance of stops and slows. It'll definitely help her in that regard. Santa Claus unfortunately is still not here, and there's a few reasons why, because we do not have the coat makes many matchups very more difficult to handle. Just in general, like 2B and Vinera would actually be insanely strong if Santa Claus was out right now, just because of what it provides. Because we don't have it right now, I would say use Sage's Hat if you do not have a ribbon, or you can even use both if you want, but you do sacrifice a weapon. But yeah, if you don't, since we don't have Santa Claus right now, I would say use Sage's Hat in that regard. And with that, we arrived to the end of the video. As always, thank you guys for watching, and if you liked my unit analysis on Vinera, please leave a like and subscribe and a comment. I'll try to reply to them as well, especially if you have a big question on her or on her usability. I still believe she is a 4 out of 5 unit right now. In the future, she will be 3.5, but yeah, outside of that, once again, until next video, peace out.